Hello, push pop number 4. So last week I had said that I was going to take a week off and not think about Laracon, and it turns out that I did nothing but think about Laracon. Evidently, I'm incapable of not doing it, and I think part of it is just the energy from the conference itself is still like in me, and so I want to capitalize on that as much as possible. And so there's been lots of note taking and idea generation, and sort of just trying to take a bit of the feedback and the ideas from different people and different ideas that I've had myself around what Laracon AU 2024 looks like. So we've partnered with the lovely people at Hatchet. They've come on to be our platinum level sponsor for next year, and so we're all go. And so over the next couple of weeks, I've got some site visits to some venues, looking at different cities other than Sydney for next year. So I've got some day trips planned to go and look at those venues. So they're going to be very busy, but um, hopefully that will help me kind of, well, not hopefully, I will have picked by before Christmas the venue for Laracon Australia 2024. So very excited about that. Um, just looking at different venues and what they're going to enable in terms of more mingling, I think, for attendees. I think one of the main things that we kind of didn't have the ability to do this year because of the constraints of the foyer at the venue we were at in Sydney was that it just couldn't hold the number of people that we had in attendance. And so next year, something we're definitely going to focus on is making sure that there is room for everyone to kind of mingle in between the talks and after the talks and at the end of the day and in the morning as well, just so that we can really give attendees the opportunity to kind of get to know each other, which is a big part, especially for people that have been to multiple Laracons or even multiple conferences in general. It's a good opportunity to kind of see old friends, and being able to kind of facilitate and enable that is a big focus for me for next year. So we're looking at some different options that, you know, is that more social opportunities? Is it, more events that we kind of not necessarily host but make available to people depending on where we're at? More social opportunities, and even looking at things like workshops and tutorials and professional development experiences and things like that. So lots of different ideas. The venues that I'm looking at will kind of enable those to different degrees, and it's just a matter of figuring out how much we want to do that moving forward. But yeah, one thing that's key that has come out from the people that I've spoken to since the conference is that the opportunity to socialize and to sort of really get to know people or catch up with people is of pretty high importance, especially I think for the Laracon crowd. So definitely a high focus for me as I kind of narrow down the venue. So yeah, it's and like once I have the venue sorted out, everything will kind of go into a bit of a holding pattern until January. We'll put up the landing page in January with the dates, and that gives people the opportunity to start planting the seeds for um budgets and planning and leave and things like that much earlier, I think. And so we're looking at October, November next year. So it'll be around the same time, depending on which venue we end up at and which is where the availability is. So that was, lots of last week. And then the snowflakes, I got all of our application now is using snowflakes in the free in the feature branch that I'm working in. So that's all functionally working. It's now a matter of going back through the test suite and finding all the places where we kind of made assumptions about things. We seed the application with specific data, and so there was assumptions about the ID values for that seeded data, which we've had to address, and then looking at things like sequence resolvers for those tests to make sure that a snowflake is randomly generated, but in tests you kind of need a little bit more assurance about what those values are going to be. And so the package that we're using, which was written I think by Chris Morrell from Internachi is the name of the company, um, provides this testing sequence resolver, which essentially just increments. It'll generate a unique ID, but it'll then increment the value by one rather than calculating it from the timestamp and the data set, the components of that, which means that we get deterministic snowflake values that we can test with, which is helpful. So it's just a matter of going through. Unfortunately, I don't know which tests fail until they fail, so it's a matter of like running the test suite, getting the failures, fixing the failures, running the test suite again, getting to 10%. So we're about 65% of the way through the test suite, all passing now. So that will be my focus for this week, is to kind of get that all finished up and ready to go. And then the aim will be, hopefully, before Christmas this year, to kind of get that in place, and have everything kind of using the Snowflake IDs in production across all of our tenants. And then in the new year is when we'll look to kind of merge all of that together, so that we'll have, instead of 8 or 10 tenant databases, we'll end up with just one application database, and everything will behave itself from there. So it's not particularly interesting, but that is my primary work focus for this week. Jake and I will catch up. I think Jake Bennett and I will catch up for an episode of North Meets South this week as well. We haven't done one for a little while. Just he was away on a conference, and I was then in the thick of final planning for Laracon AU and then Laracon AU. So we did Laravel News last week. We'll get back and we will talk about Laracon AU, I think, in a bit more detail this week. And so if you have any questions about Laracon AU or suggestions or things that you want to hear about from my perspective as an organizer, or just things that you want to say, then reach out, and I would love to talk about those, and some of the ideas that we're sort of, we're not doing them, but there are lots of things that are in my mind as considerations for 2024. So looking forward to that. I will send out an email to all of this year's attendees a little bit later this week, just as a formal close. Thank you very much for attending. A little bit of feedback about the conference, about some of the demographics that we got out of it, which I think was interesting. We said at the end of the conference that two-thirds of the attendees had less than 5 years of experience with the Laravel framework. So it's a good kind of marker for where we want to establish the level of the talks for next year, I think. And we'll put out like a quick NPS survey, 1 through 10. Would you recommend Laracon AU to a friend or colleague? Just to see if we can get a little bit of feedback from people as well, if they've got any suggestions or ideas. I know probably the main two things I know are difficult is seating in the venue and air conditioning in the venue. The air conditioning in the venue is very good. It gets quite chilly in there. But when you have 300 people in a room and you turn that air conditioning off, it gets very warm very quickly. And then it takes a fair bit of time when you turn the air conditioner back on to get the temperature back to comfortable. So that's one thing. The other thing that I'm acutely aware of is a lot of these venues are very good from a presentation perspective, because everyone's got good line of sight to the stage and the speaker and the screen. But in a theater with that vaulted seating, it's kind of made for a 2-hour performance, not for sitting in for 2 days. So something that we'll certainly be considering for next year is more comfortable seating. The best that we can do, depending on all the other factors that we consider. So yeah, those are the things. So the mail out will go out this week to Laracon AU attendees. Hopefully I'll have the test suite passing again for work with the snowflakes running. That's just an iterative thing, and it takes 6 minutes to run the test suite. And so as I get closer to the end, it means I've got to run more of the test suite in full to kind of get to the next failure. So it was 30 seconds, and then it was 60 seconds, and it's now 4 minutes that I kind of have to wait to get any feedback about what I need to fix next. So it's just a slow process. And assuming that all goes well, I might even try and throw pest PHP in there. Um, it's we've tried it previously, but I think there is just some dependency issues in the application that mean that we may not be able to install pest, at least not pest version 2. So I'll certainly have a play around with that just to see if we can tidy up things a little bit, get a bit better feedback and a nicer API in terms of writing the tests themselves. But yeah, that will be push pop number 4. Thank you for watching, I suppose. We'll see you next week. Bye.